Shalom, miserable humans. Like many on the internet, I am freaking sick of Disney giving their heroines the same adorkable personalities ever since Tangled with Rapunzel. They are quirky, bubbly, socially inept, make a lot of over-the-top hand gestures, are clumsy, and overly chatty. But while it felt genuine with Rapunzel, since I just wanted to make her the polar opposite of Tiana from The Princess and the Frog, it's really unoriginal with the other heroines, save for Judy Hopps from Zootopia, given she has a maturity to her and isn't really socially inept, which helps her stand out from Rapunzel the same way Pocahontas can stand out from Ariel. But then you got Anna, Honey Lemon, Moana, Mirabel, and most recently, Asha, all of whom are interchangeable with each other, albeit Honey Lemon not as much because of how she is a chemistry genius, which is important. However, this video is not about why Disney only using this personality type is annoying. If you want a more detailed video on why Disney's adorkable and quirky heroines are a problem, I would highly recommend Modern Girl's video on Disney's adorkable problem, which is actually what inspired me to make this video. And while I don't agree with her lumping Vanellope from Wreck-It Ralph and Raya from Raya and the Last Dragon into the adorkable category, since their personalities are vastly different and don't have the same behaviors as someone like Anna or Moana, I do still agree with everything else she has to say. So I just wanted to take the time to give Tessa, the voice and creator of Modern Girls, the credit she deserves. So thank you for giving me the inspiration for this video and for just being one of my favorite YouTubers of all time. Anyway, in this video, instead of talking about Disney's adorkable problem, I'm going to talk about how I would fix the problem. And no, I don't mean the simple solution of Disney just exploring different personalities in their upcoming films, but I still want them to do that. I mean, I'm going to look at our current adorkable heroines from the revival era and rewriting them with personalities that help make them more unique and stand out from each other while still fitting into their stories. The only adorkable characters I won't be rewriting are Rapunzel and Judy, since they feel the most genuine and their personalities are integral to their stories. Rapunzel has been isolated her whole life, so that makes sense. And Judy is supposed to have an optimistic and naive outlook on life, both for her character development and to make her a contrast with the jaded and pessimistic Nick Wilde. Also, it must be said, I'm not saying that these are bad characters or that this is a bad personality type. I'm just saying that we need more variety and not so much overlap. Keep in mind, this is just my opinion, so don't be about it. Now, without any further delay, let's dive right on in. Starting off with what is considered the standard for Disney heroines nowadays, Anna. I remember when the first look at Frozen art came out, and people were complaining that she looked too much like Rapunzel, and yeah, she does, but that's a different issue. She at least has some differences in her appearance that make her at least somewhat different visually from Rapunzel, with a smaller nose, thinner lips, more freckles, a different eye shape, and some different coloring. However, when the trailers, and especially the movie hit theaters, it was clear that her looks weren't the only thing that she got from Rapunzel, but also her personality, only dialed up to 1,000 with self-deprecating meta-humor. And yes, while Anna has been isolated, it's not nearly to the same extent as Rapunzel, who only had Mother Gothel, who only cared about her own youth and beauty and maintaining that with Rapunzel's hair, and Pascal, a chameleon that can't talk, to interact with and would run out of things to do in her tower to the point where she had to repeat activities. Anna has the servants to talk to, and her isolation isn't nearly to the same level as Rapunzel to justify her being a more extreme version of Rapunzel. Besides, not every person who has lived a sheltered life is going to have the exact same personality, and making her behavior more extreme than Rapunzel's just feels lazy and unoriginal. In my opinion, instead of modeling her after Rapunzel, I would have modeled her personality more after the likes of Giselle from Enchanted, albeit a version that is more toned down with the satire. This would still be able to get across the message of,
you can't marry a man you just met.
It would still show a contrast between her and the more mature and reserved Elsa by making Anna a hopeless romantic and naive without having to make her be too much like a Rapunzel knockoff. On top of that, I would also have her be a bookworm just like Belle to help her feel her lonely days in the castle. But to keep with the personality I gave her, have her exclusively be interested in stories of romance to help show how desperate she is for love and to show her gaining some maturity at the end of the film. You can even have Kristoff asking why she doesn't read anything other than romance to help build their chemistry, because they desperately needed it in this movie. Basically, much like Giselle, her personality should be reminiscent of the first 3 Disney princesses, especially Snow White, but with some spunk and be a bit more realistic. She can still be funny without having to be so over the top. I mean, Giselle was, and she was a freaking satire, and yet she was more subtle than Anna. Next we have Honey Lemon, and if people thought Anna looked too much like Rapunzel, Honey Lemon is definitely worse with a lazier design that looks like Rapunzel instead of her own unique character, albeit with Honey Lemon's design looking more like an exaggerated caricature of Rapunzel. While Honey Lemon's adorkability isn't as noticeable due to her not being the main protagonist like the others in this video, her personality is still pretty much like Rapunzel as well, only not as exaggerated as Anna. Plus, compared to the likes of Fred, who I absolutely can't stand, she's practically deadpan, but her adorkable and quirky personality is still shown, especially in the animated series, where they even made her an artist just like Rapunzel. How original. Granted, much like Anna and Elsa, it was meant to have her be a contrast with Gogo, but considering these characters already existed in the comic books where they were able to stand out from each other, was changing the personalities of all the characters save for Gogo and Hero really necessary? Tartarus, what they did to Fred was really egregious by making him the polar opposite of who he was, to the same horrendous levels as what was done with Lola Bunny in the Looney Tunes show. Anyway, in order to make her feel like her own original character, I would say they should have modeled her more after her original personality in the comics. Her comic book counterpart was flirtatious, a bit of a prankster, bubbly, optimistic, outgoing, a cheerleader, and the most responsible member of the team. Basically a mixture of Stella from Winx Club and Kim Possible from, well, Kim Possible. This makes her more unique and interesting, while still making her a contrast with Gogo, especially since the two originally couldn't stand each other in the comics, before eventually becoming friends. You can still have her be passionate about chemistry without making her adorkable and ridiculously over the top. I mean, Ariel is passionate about human things, but they didn't make her adorkable in order to show that. I would also change her design to make her look less like a Rapunzel caricature. I love her superhero outfit, but change her face and hair to make her more unique, as well as her fashion to help it fit with her personality. Plus, apart from her superhero outfit, her wardrobe is just awful. In the case of Moana, she came so close to becoming one of the great Disney heroines. In the first and last thirds of the movie, she's great, but her adorkability is what ruins her, especially in the second third. Granted, she had some adorkable moments in the first third of the movie, but it wasn't as ridiculous as the second third, because that's when they amped it up, and it's honestly a detriment to her character. I will admit that she has more of a maturity to her than Rapunzel and Anna due to her having more responsibilities and having to save the world. However, she's overly chatty, has over-the-top hand gestures, is comedically clumsy, has some silly facial expressions a lot of the time, is quirky, and is even cracking jokes during serious moments. It all feels so forced and doesn't work with her character. Yes, she's inexperienced at sailing and doesn't know what she's doing, but look at Mulan. She wasn't experienced and didn't know what she was doing. And yeah, they had some jokes there, but not nearly as ridiculously over the top. They took Mulan's journey more seriously instead of making it be like, I'm so quirky and awkward, bleh. You can have her not be great at sailing and grow without playing it mostly for laughs, especially since that not only ruins her character, but the movie as well. I still love Moana herself and the movie, but this is a major flaw that really makes the tone unbalanced and hurts Moana as a character. Honestly, there isn't that much that you'd have to do in order to fix Moana. Just get rid of her adorkableness. That's it. No ridiculous hand gestures, no overabundance of awkward facial expressions, don't have her be clumsy just for the sake of a gag, no cracking unnecessary jokes during serious moments, and treat her growth and learning to sail the same way Mulan's was treated. Honestly, had they have done that with her character, she would have probably become one of my top 10 favorite Disney heroines. She would have been a combination of Ariel and Pocahontas, but with more maturity than Ariel, and not quite as mature as Pocahontas. She can have some humor and playfulness, but that doesn't have to be to the point where she's doing stuff that makes her feel ridiculously comedic because it doesn't suit her character or her journey. For a long time, I felt like I should have loved her more than I actually do. I couldn't figure out why I didn't love her more. Now I know. Her adorkability is what drags her down, due to it not feeling natural with her, and really forced into her character, likely due to executive meddling. Out of all the adorkable heroines I'm rewriting, Mirabel is probably the most organic of the bunch. I mean, she is the black sheep of the family, so it makes sense for her to be weird, quirky, awkward, and adorkable. However, I feel like there are other ways that they could have done her character to fit with the story and her journey without making her adorkable. Plus, we already have an adorkable character in this movie with Bruno, and it makes more sense for him to be like this due to him being the family pariah because of his gift, the fact that people refuse to talk about him, and he'd been isolated in the walls of the casita with only the company of rats. And while Mirabel is still a great character, the humor for her, while funny, is still kind of predictable. Not to mention her saying,
"Wait, how do I save a miracle?"
during a major moment instead of reflecting on it kind of kills the moment. Don't get me wrong, I do find the moment to be genuinely funny and realistic in that situation, but it would have been more powerful if she just reflected instead of making a joke. Imagine if during the decision scene from Mulan, if they had Mulan be all like, "Wait, how do I be a man?" Would that have worked and been as iconic? No, because it would have been a major tonal whiplash. Instead, I feel like they should have modeled her personality more after Mulan, Madeline from The Hunchback of Notre Dame 2, and Melody from The Little Mermaid 2 Return to the Sea. Yes, I just praised 2 sequel characters. Just because their movies aren't very good doesn't mean they aren't great characters. Plus, anyone who knows me knows that Melody is tied with Jack Frost from Rise of the Guardians as my favorite fictional character of all time. But anyway, those are characters that are awkward, but in a way that isn't so comedically over the top and feels more genuine and organic rather than cartoony. These are characters that are self-conscious and are expected to play a certain role, but have trouble living up to that standard, and it's only by being true to themselves that they are able to truly be happy and solve their problems. Not to mention that considering Mirabel is always told to stay out of the way and not to embarrass the family by both Abuela and Isabella, it makes sense for her not to be so adorkable and to be more timid. It would make when she finally blows up at both of them all the more satisfying and showing her growth as a character. Can we just please have awkward and clumsy characters without making it their most defining character trait? Now we got into the most recent Adorkable heroine, Asha, and in my opinion, the worst case of them all. First of all, I hate saying that because she looks like my fiance, who is also quirky, and I adore her design, even if her dress could have been more unique. But just like everything in her film, she lacks any real depth and feels like a watered-down version of the other Adorkable heroines. Unfortunately, unlike the other Adorkable heroines who, while frustratingly unoriginal, are at least likable and entertaining on their own, Asha just has no real charm or charisma to her that makes her entertaining to watch. In fact, her adorkable and quirky behavior is amped up even more than Anna, to the point where it doesn't feel like she can go without doing unnecessary air kung fu for 5 minutes. And while she's able to have some serious moments, she feels more like comedic relief to the point where she makes Sisu look more serious. And she doesn't even have the excuse of being isolated all her life like Rapunzel, being somewhat isolated like Anna, or being a black sheep like Mirabel. She's a tour guide and is supposed to be a social butterfly despite being socially inept. It just doesn't work for her. All the flaws with the other characters are made worse with her, to where she doesn't really have much to her besides her generic kindness and comedic adorkability. Apart from her design and Ariana DeBose's performance, nothing about her stands out in a positive way. Honestly, since very few, if any, actually like the finished product that is Disney's wish, part of my rewrite of Asha will include changing something from the story, and that is making her already being Magnifico's magical apprentice. I imagine her being a passionate bookworm that is dedicated to her studies, to the point where she spends most of her time studying magic, which would help her using magic be more than just a dumb gag. But she would still be kind and soft-spoken, which makes her hesitant to stand up to Magnifico at first and back down immediately and apologize when she first steps out of line and questions him. However, she would also have qualities of Esmeralda that explain her passion, rebelliousness, and wanting more for the people of Rosas. This would also give her an arc to be more true to herself, which works for the film being a 100-year celebration of Disney, since that's a common theme in their movies, and that she is a rebel that will stop at nothing to help others. But her drive would also be her wanting to make her life feel like it meant something by actually making a difference in the world, so it wouldn't be for just pure selfless reasons, which makes her feel more human and a character with layers. And so that's how I would fix Disney's Adorkable problem they had with their heroines from the revival era. Once again, I have nothing against quirky characters, however, it is ridiculously overdone at this point, to where Raya is the first non-adorkable female protagonist we've gotten from Disney since Tiana from The Princess and the Frog, and it's honestly one of the reasons why I adore Raya. Also, as I've mentioned, my fiance is a quirky mermaid, and she also has stated that she is absolutely sick and tired of all the modern Disney heroines having the same adorkable and quirky personality. She's especially annoyed with Asha, despite how much they look alike, because her character, much like her entire film, film is wasted potential. I get that the adorkable heroines are supposed to be a subversion of the more well-mannered, soft-spoken, and graceful heroines of the past, but it's ridiculously overdone at this point and proves why the Renaissance era was the best era with the female characters not being interchangeable and were actually unique from each other. I miss those days and I want them back. Hopefully Disney will one day get the point that we're tired of this and explore other personality types. So what did you guys think? Do you like what I did with the characters? Are you sick of Disney's adorkable problem, or do you like it the way it is? Let me know in the comments. Please like, share, comment, subscribe if you haven't already. You can also follow me on my other social media accounts in the links below. I'm the Wicked Merman from Under the Sea.